least long enough to complete my quest. I could care less about ever returning to my home city of Karkarus. Alone, I explored the last obstacle to my journey, an ancient cavern carved out long ago. Concrete and steel are now dust, bedrock exposed. Nothing remained. The running creek, the moisture and gangamoss making short work of what was once probably a vast urban habitation. If one could not define any of the telltale signatures of a past civilization, the sublevel above the capital city appeared just like a long natural cave. 100,000 years. That's the theory. When humanity migrated underground. 100,000 theories as to why they did. 100,000 theories as to what the surface is like. I just needed to prove just one. That a way out to the surface existed. That this mythical world was real. That the Apollogon fables were true. Many like me had attempted this, most now embedded in legend. The super-government persecuted all that tried or peddled in the outer surface sciences. This military conflict between the Echelon Renegata and the Geotheocracy offered me a chance to get closer to the upper sublevels. Strategically, the tunnel networks above the city levels proved to be vulnerabilities for the ruling class for generations. Conquest, piracy, and restrictions made these tunnels impossible to traverse. Beyond them dwelled the plethora of outcast machine men and modified humans. For 2 years I traveled upward. 2 years of fighting, surviving, and hiding. 2 years of working in mines, of digging, of exploring. 2 years.
Deserter. By order of the Geotheocracy, you'll feed the magma for your heresy.
Survived so far, and I would be damned if I came so close to breaching the surface, only to die in the cold, dark wilderness. Of the myriad of theories, I held on to one. Its importance to my expedition crucial.
Deserter. Is an earthquake. Our souls descend to the deep core, where Lytheos remembered
I read about some regions having sublevels ending in rock and ice. The echelons were a place where no ice had ever been known to exist. Water ran downward. Wildlife thrived. No ice. I gambled everything on the forbidden knowledge. The established science knew and proved that the radiation pumping up from the Earth's core provided warmth for all life to exist. This exosun, if indeed it was an objective reality, should be warming the lithosphere by now. But the higher I journeyed, the colder it felt. This was the place. The sublevels went up and up. Cavities, pockets, and shafts, all interconnected with tunnels, all man-made. I also knew the trek upward would get harder, relishing my perseverance in carrying this climbing equipment for 2 years. I've lost colleagues, friends, my sanity, my innocence. But the climbing gear, invented and handmade by that Lythria miner I once befriended, would survive. I rested among the mushmush for a day, letting their acrid stench protect me from predators. I resumed my ascent well-rested and in earnest. I could sleep there a year, but felt I was close. This sublevel was unusually spacious. I figured it might have once been a public space rather than a residential one. The bedrock appeared smooth and straight, lacking the twisting contours evident in other, much lower places. There was no heavy air pressure up here, remembering the lectures of famous geotheologist Terjeven Akadamus. Once at the top, I peered into a square cave, untouched by the elements. Inside, a shaft, soared upward, which after a brief climb brought me up to another sublevel. As I peered out into the darkness, I lost some of my enthusiasm. I needed to decide whether to push on with the supplies I had left, or go back and try again with the terrain knowledge I now knew. A risk either way. The recent tunnel battle destroyed many of the communities I sheltered in, and now that I was officially a deserter, an instant death penalty awaited me. To press on would mean that there was no going back. I would either die, or my hope that the one theory in thousands would prove true. That another world existed on the surface. A living world, under a living exosun. And the sun? I bet I could survive that too. The old geotheologist warned of a painful death from its exposure. Burning light, he called it. I felt unconvinced. The cooler sublevels above me defy that logic. The heat would emanate from above, not below. One theory I could agree held true was that the air thinned the higher the elevation. I could barely breathe now and was forced to slow down. I decided to press ahead. If proved right, I would find sustenance, recover, and head back down. I did not consider this fantasy thinking. I've survived so far. Gone from eating people meat, supplied readily and free by the city food collective, to killing for my own people meat. The war made it easy, but killing and eating were major hurdles for me. Now I ate non-people meat, Roberts, glyphs, even insects. I felt confident. I could eat the exobiology if they did exist.
There is no darkness.
One theory I could agree held true was that the air thinned the higher the elevation. I could barely breathe now and was forced to slow down. I decided to press ahead. If proved right, I would find sustenance, recover, and head back down. I found a tunnel entrance and ventured inside. I found a room. Inside, I came across nothing but square walls and stains where artifacts once stood, but had corroded away. For the first time in a long while, I trod on steps. I soon encountered more steps and climbed further and further up. The air grew tighter in my chest, but I persevered. Discovering a narrow shaft, I continued up until I came to another room. Same story. Corrosion stains, thin, hardly breathable air. But this one had something that looked like a hatch. A glass panel. I gazed into the little window, but could see nothing but a black void. I heard a hiss, and that is when I noticed the crack forming near the edge of the glass. I watched and heard air hissing through the tiny aperture. The pressure was vastly lower out there. The thrill of this discovery tingled along my spine. I studied what I could see outside the small round glass panels embedded in the center of each hatch door. I noticed tiny lights above. Thousands of them, like gangamoss growing on the ceiling. But instead of green-blue, these tiny lights glowed brilliant white. Was this the sun? I reimagined every fable I had ever read. I touched the glass. Cold, freezing, unbearable. I looked at what I was convinced was the surface, but all I saw was a smooth, featureless dark plain. My heart skipped a beat when I spotted the horizon in the distance, a line where the tiny lights ended and the dim surface began. If I strained my eyes, I could almost see it glow.